Good
morning, Rabbi.
You're learning Mishna Nazir, Parak Vav, Chapter 6, Mishnah Aleph, Mishnah 11. Okay, now, quick introduction. We learned in the previous Mishnah a dispute about a Nazir who became Tameh on the day that he was supposed to bring his offerings, but before he had a chance to bring them, any of them. So let's say he has a 30-day Naziris. That was the Naziris, 30 days. And on day 31, he became Tameh. Day 31, which was when he was supposed to bring his sacrifices, he became Tameh before he brought any of the sacrifices. So you had the Chacham of the sages that ruled that by rabbinic decree, he must observe 30 more days of Naziris after becoming Tar. Okay? 30 more days of Naziris after he became Tar. Rabbi Eliezer ruled that he'd only observe 7 more days, the time he needed to become Tar, and then bring his offerings. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, you became Tameh. So what do? Become Tar. Takes 7 days to become Tar, right? You got to have 7 days to get sprinkled with the Para Dumba water, with the red heifer water, then go to the mikveh, and then the next day you're good to go. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, you go through that process, and then you bring the offerings. According to the Chachamim, there was a rabbinic decree that if it happens on that day, that you got to keep a 30 days more of Naziris. The reason for that decree, interestingly, is because we're talking about that he became Tameh on the day that he was supposed to bring his sacrifices, which means he finished his 30 days, and day 31 he became Tameh. The Chachamim were concerned that a person may get confused between day 31 and day 30. Now, if you become Tameh on day 30, you have to start all over again, because you didn't complete your Naziris yet. Or it's not the completion of the full amount. So the Chachamim said, even if you become Tameh on day 31, which essentially is your Naziris is over, you still have to keep another 30 days, which no matter how long your Naziris is, you just keep another 30 days because of that concern about getting confused. Now, our Mishnah is going to discuss the following case, in which the Nazir first became Tameh after he had brought some of his offerings. Meaning he brought an offering and then it became Tameh. In such a case, even the sages agree that the Nazir does not have to observe any more days of Naziris, even by rabbinic decree. So let's read the Mishnah now. Mi shenizrak alav echa min adam v'nitma. Someone, a Nazir, that one of the bloods was thrown, meaning one of his sacrifices was slaughtered. Not only was it slaughtered, the blood was thrown, everything was fine, not like in yesterday's Mishnah, and then he became Tameh. Rabbi Eliezer Oimer Seiser Es HaKol. Rabbi Eliezer says you got to start all over again. Now, what does that mean here? Seiser Es HaKol means, we'll see soon what that means exactly. It means you got to do all the sacrifices over again. The Chachamim say Yavi Shar Kabanaisa Yitar. He brings the rest of his sacrifices and he is tar. No one says here that you have to make up any days. Okay? Now, according to that, at the end of the day, it became Tameh. You can't bring the rest of your karbanis unless you go through a week's process of becoming tar, right? There's nothing you can do until you become tar. So there's no discussion that you got to become tar. There's also no discussion of having to wait another 30 days, even according to the Chachamim. And that's because, as we said, the reason the Chachamim say that you, in a regular case of becoming Tameh on day 31, we say that a person has to keep another 30 days. That was, as we said, so it's not to confuse the situation when a person becomes Tameh on day 30. You really got to start over again. In this case, the point is like this. In this case, let me read to you how they explain it. Once some of the offerings have actually been slaughtered, no one will make a mistake that day for the last day of the term. Meaning, if he became Tameh after a korban was already brought, no one's going to say, if it becomes Tameh, if that happens on day 31, the same thing on day 30. There are no sacrifices on day 30. Here it's talking about after a sacrifice was brought. If you're talking about after a sacrifice is brought, there's no reason to be concerned about confusion, and therefore, day 31, no one, you don't have to, even according to the Chachamim, you don't got to make up another 30 days. What you got to do is, you have to go ahead and you have to, now the question is, what happens with the karbanis that you brought, what happens with the rest of the karbanis? So Rebbe Lezer says, Soiser es hakol. Rebbe Lezer says, even though you brought one carbon, and that carbon was done properly, was done well, before you became tamei, you forfeit the whole thing. Even that sacrifice is no good, and you have to make sure that you're going to go ahead and bring your sacrifices over again. The reason for this, according to Rebbe Lezer, is the following. Let me read to you from the notes. Rebbe Lezer follows the view of the Tanna Kam in Mishna 9, who holds that a Nazir may not become tamei to corpses until after all his offerings have been made, and he has finished the entire concluding ritual. Meaning, according to, we had a machlokes and a Mishnah before. At what point can a Nazir start drinking wine? At what point can a Nazir start becoming permitted to become tamei for someone from a dead body? So one time there was a Tana previously that said he's got to do all three. Only after all three are done, that's when there is no more prohibition of becoming tamei, no more prohibition of drinking wine. Now, in this case, Rebbe Lezer says, when did he become tamei? Only after one carbon. So that means that now he became tamei during his Naziris, right? It's not like his Naziris was over yet, because he needs, according to Rebbe Lezer, holds like the opinion that you need all three sacrifices for the Naziris to end. So it comes that he became tamei in the middle of his Naziris. Became tamei in the middle of his Naziris, then of course what he didn't do, he's got to do. But even what he did already is no good, because it was before his Naziris was over that he became tamei. So even though we don't say that he's got to go ahead and do everything over again, because it was already the day after the Naziris was done, but nonetheless, any sacrifice that he brought then wasn't done. Can't work, because by becoming tamei on the day that he becoming tamei on that day, that means that he became tamei before his Naziris was over, and therefore it comes out that the sacrifice was brought before the Naziris was really over. So therefore, he's going to have to go ahead and do it again. The Chachamim say, Yavi shar kabanaisa v'yitar. No, bring the rest of the karbanis. The one you brought, it's fine. Once you become tar, because you went through the process of becoming tar from a dead body, bring the rest of your karbanis. Because according to the Chachamim, they follow the opinion of the previous Mishnah that said that after one sacrifice, he's allowed to drink wine and allowed to become tamei. So once one sacrifice was brought, his Naziris is over. If his Naziris is over, and then he becomes tamei, okay, became tamei after Naziris was over. The first carbon was brought when everything was fine, everything was done fine. He was another's day. He brought his sacrifice. His Naziris ended, and then after that, he became tamei. Okay, that doesn't affect what he already did. It's going to affect the other karbanis. He can't bring the other karbanis while he is tamei. But he has so after he becomes pure, he'll bring those sacrifices. But the sacrifice that he brought isn't going to have any kind of a problem, because again, the sacrifice was brought, the Naziris ended, and then he became tamei. Then that's not going to have any effect on what he did until then. Amrulai, the Chachamim said to Rebbe Lezer, to bring a proof to their opinion. Maisa b'Miriam hatarmidis. Meaning they want to bring a story that happened in earlier generations. These are the Chachamim of this generation speaking to argue with Rebbe Lezer, and they want to bring a proof to themselves from the Chachamim, from the sages of an earlier period of time. Ma'isa b'Miriam hatarmudis. It happened with a woman who was known as Miriam of Tarmud. She was from a place called Tarmud. And she made herself a Nazir. And now she was in the process of going, she had completed the term, and now she was going through the process of bringing her karbanos, her sacrifices. One of the bloods was thrown for her. That means she brought one of the karbanos, the blood was thrown on the Mizbeach, completed. Ubo v'amrula, and then right after that they came and told her, Albita shaisa misukenes, that her daughter was dangerously ill. So she left. And she went and she found that she died. That means she entered a house with a dead body. That means before she finished bringing her sacrifices, she became tamei. So, what now? The Chachamim said, once she becomes pure from her impurity from the dead body, she can bring the rest of her karbanos. So you see, they said, like what the Chachamim said, they followed the opinion, they followed out, they did, we're doing what they said. That once one of the sacrifices are brought, that's enough to allow her to become tamei. That means the Naziris has ended. She became tamei after that, and therefore what she did was good, and then when she becomes tar, she will then go ahead and bring the rest of her sacrifices. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.